Hello, my name is Kimberly House, Program Director for the United Way of the Midlands Reading Consortium. I would like to welcome you to our third training featuring Kendra Alston, author and educator. Today's topic is how do we keep students engaged during remote learning? Ms. Alston will share tools and tips on effective ways to keep students engaged and for them to learn techniques to support their reading, speaking, listening, and writing. Also be on the lookout for a link to our Q&A session with Ms. Austin on October the 15th from 5:30 to 6:15 p.m. We look forward to working with you in October, and we thank you so very much for sharing your time and your talent to work with our students. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Hello, friends. How are you? Thank you so much for being here. My name is Kendra Alston, and I will be your facilitator today around the topic of student engagement. Before we get too deeply into student engagement, I wanted to just tell you 3 things about me. I am a mother of a 4th grade son. He's 9 years old, and 4th grade is so important. It's such an important year for me. It's a big transition for him. I am a teacher. I've been in education for 26 years as an elementary school teacher, middle school, high school. I even did adjunct work for the community college for about 7 years. And I worked in literacy coaching, facilitating positions. So I've had quite a bit of experience in education. And the third thing about me is that I'm a children's author. So I have authored 2 children's books, one of which we'll be able to hear today. So that's just a little bit about me. I know you all come with so many wonderful stories and so much experiences, and I can't wait until I get a chance to actually see you and hear those experiences that you have in your life. So again, thank you so much for being here. After I do my little spiel here, I'm going to switch it off and I'm going to share my screen so you won't be able to see me, but you can hear me. Okay, and then at the end, I'll share it once again, just to tell you goodbye, okay? So let me go ahead and share my screen now. And, okay. Okay, thanks so much for your patience. Okay, so student engagement. I'm going to start off and I want you to do a little bit of reflection for me. I want you to think about a time that you went to a meeting or a conference or a workshop or a lecture. And I want you to take a moment to think about the best meeting, the best conference, the best lecture, the best workshop that you've ever attended. What were the characteristics that made it the best? Why was it so good? I'm going to give you a minute to think about that. Now, I want you to keep those reasons in your head as to why that conference or that workshop was the best one you've ever attended, okay? Now, I want you to think about one that you went to that was not so good, was not so fun. It was actually the worst experience you could have ever had. Think about that for a minute. And what made that meeting or conference or workshop the worst that you've ever attended? Okay. So what I've asked you to do is really think about the best workshops you've been to or conferences or just regular meetings, and then the worst. Some of the things that you probably were thinking about was that the best ones were fun. They were just fun, and whatever that looks like to you, they were fun. They were also relevant. They were connecting to something that maybe you were already doing, experiences that you've already had, but they connected to you and your life. So they were relevant. The best workshops and meetings, they also are collaborative. That means they encourage us to talk to each other. You know, they'll say, hey, talk to your neighbor. You know, things like that gives us an opportunity to actually share with someone else. Now, the worst meetings or conferences that we've had were, of course, probably boring. The presenter talked entirely too long, never really giving us an opportunity to share with anyone else, never gave us an opportunity to really process what was being said. They just kind of kept feeding us information. And then finally, it really didn't connect with our life. So we didn't really have anything to hang any of the information on because we just didn't, it wasn't relevant to us. Children, like adults, want to be involved in activities that can hold their attention, just like we do. They want activities that connect with their lives and that allow them to share their experiences with others. Overall, children want to be engaged. They want activities that will engage them. Today, friends, we will be exploring the topic of student engagement. Here's our agenda for today. I'm gonna give you a minute to look at that. So we're gonna first define student engagement. We're gonna talk about the causes of disengagement or the lack of engagement. I'm going to talk a little bit about the evidence of engagement, the different levels of engagement, what are the interactive read-alouds, you know, exactly what those are, how to make read-alouds engaging, and then we're going to practice. At the end, there's a 3-2-1 activity that you will complete and bring next time, okay? Student engagement. Student engagement simply means how curious or interested or passionate students show that they are while they are learning. That's it. How passionate, how curious, how interested are students, and to what degree? That is the definition of student engagement. We all know, anyone who's ever worked with children, or as I said before, children just like adults want to be engaged. We all know that we do have people who are not engaged, and there are some causes for that. There's actually a long list of causes, but I've listed a few here. The content is not relevant. There's no connection to our life or to the lives of the children. The content is either too easy or too hard. Lack of nutrition, because when we're not consuming proper nutrition, it does affect us and our attention. Lack of strong relationships, challenging home life, and undiagnosed learning disabilities. Now, friends, some of these listed are things that we can't control, unfortunately. I'm here to talk about what we can control, okay? Whenever I walk into a room as a literacy coach, one of the first things I look for is engagement. And I have this mental checklist that I have, and I'm looking to see, are students paying attention? Are they tracking the teacher with their eyes or tracking the assignment? Are they taking notes? Are they listening? Are they asking questions? Are they responding to questions appropriately? Are they following the request of the teachers? Are they reacting appropriately, like laughing when the teacher says something funny? Of course, we don't want them crying, but of course, shouting when the teacher says, okay, shout out your answers. So that lets us know that they are paying attention. If students are working in small groups, I can tell, because sometimes when students are in small groups or in pairs, we can be fooled into thinking that they are really engaged. But here's what I look for. Are they reading with the pen in hand? Are they writing to learn information, like planning and discussing and asking questions? Are they performing and presenting, evaluating? So these are all some of the things that I look for. And are they, and how are they interacting or gesturing and moving in that small group? So how can you engage students during reading time? Because reading, a lot of people feel like it's a passive act, but it really isn't. Our goal is to create active readers, okay? And so this next section is about how we are going to engage students during the reading time. We know that we should read to young children even before they can read to themselves. We also know that when reading to these youngsters, we should involve them by talking about the pictures in the books, by asking questions. Research has demonstrated that the most effective read-alouds aren't the ones where we just sit and read, open the book, read, and then close it, and then we tell the kids goodbye. No. It's where children are actively involved in asking and answering questions and making predictions while you're reading the story. And that's what separates the passive reader from the active reader. And that's exactly what we want, our active readers. Interactive read-alouds is one strategy that will encourage active reading and student engagement. So the question, what should we do to make our read-alouds more interactive? Here's what we should do. And I've kind of highlighted words just so they can kind of stick with you. When we're reading aloud to students or to children, we should stop briefly to examine new words, words that we feel may be a challenge to them. Sometimes it's the same word that's a challenge to us. Really. All right, depending on your grade level. Also use think alouds. Allow the students to see how you're thinking about what you're reading. That provides a good model for understanding the text. As you're reading, encourage students to visualize before you ever show the picture. Encourage them to visualize what's happening in the story. And then invite students to make connections. And you invite students to make connections by asking questions of characters and their motives. How are you like the main character? How are you not like the main character? So you are encouraging the students to start thinking about how this text relates to their lives, the relevancy. And then you're going to encourage students to interact with the book by having them talk to a partner. And you may be that partner that they talk to. So here are the steps. And really there are 3 main steps, and then there are 2 optional steps. But we're going to just focus on those top 3. We're going to first introduce the text. Then we're going to read the text, and then we're going to discuss the text. So this is more like a before we read, while we read, and then after we read. If it's necessary, we can go back and revisit the text, and we can also go back to respond to certain parts in the text. So let's look first at just introducing the text. When we get ready to read a story, it's important to say, what do you think the story is about? And allow the student to tell you what they think the story is about. And then you ask them, how do you know, or what makes you say that? To see if they're using any type of clues. After you ask those 2 questions, it's time to start reading the text. But it's important to know that you don't want to read an entire text without stopping to make sure students have time to process what you've read. I call it stop and jot. So we can stop and then they can write a word. That's the jotting part of it. And then afterwards you discuss the text. And this gives students a chance to reflect on what they have read. This I think is the most crucial part of ReadAlouds. And it's the part when we read at home, maybe with our children, we don't do a lot of. And so, but this is the reflection piece, and this is crucial to understanding and retaining information about the text. So what we're going to do, because I've given you a lot of information, we're going to put all of this together. And I just want you to imagine yourself as a student, and we're going to actually watch a read aloud. And it's going to be of my story, Slimerella. And I will start right now. So I want you to put on the hat of a student, and I'm going to take you through the process of how to engage students in a read aloud. For the sake of the presentation, I'm going to share the story virtually through the YouTube link, okay? So here we go. Good morning, class. I have a question for you. Have you ever been bullied or picked on? What did you do? How did you handle it? Today, we will listen to a fairy tale that may sound familiar. In the story, the main character is teased because her hair doesn't look quite like everyone else's. Let's read to find out how the main character solved her problem.
Slimerella, a reimagined fairy tale by me, Kendra Alston. Once upon a slime, in a tiny big place, was a town called Slimeville. It was a bit fast-paced. Have you heard of Slimeville? It's a magical town. It's jam-packed with slime folks, and they're the slimiest around. Most slime folks were kind, but some were not. Some had very little, and some had a lot. They had one thing in common, and it's really quite sublime. The hair on their head was made mostly of slime. The folk of Slimeville took pride in their hair. If not styled to perfection, slime folk would stare. It was an unspoken rule, and everyone knew that if you lived in Slimeville, you had a stunning hairdo. They wore slime puffs and slime froze and long, slimy locks.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. How many of you know someone who has slime puffs and slime froze and long, slimy locks? Do you all know anyone like that? Let's keep reading.
Slime braids, crochets, slime fades, and faux hawks. Barbershops and beauty stores lined the busy streets, further proof that in Slimeville, your hair was top priority. Byron Blue Slime was mayor, and Polias Purple Slime was king. Glenda Glow Slime was queen, and boy, could she sing. But the most handsome guy of all, and his hair was supreme, was that magnetic slime prince, but his friends call him Kareem.
You know what I'm noticing? I'm noticing that every other line rhymes. That reminds me of a poem. Not all poems have to rhyme, but in this case, this is written like a poem with rhyme.
All the girls in the land would love to date that fella, but there was only one who was worthy, and her name, Slimerella. Slimerella was kind. She was heaven sent. Her family owned a salon, but she lived in the basement. She had a stepmother and 2 wicked sisters. They made her clean up the salon till she got slimy blisters. They left globs here and left globs there. Slime hair on the mirrors and slime hair on the chairs. Her sisters were awful. Their names were Stress and Heat. They teased poor Slimerella because her hair wasn't neat. Clean our combs and our brushes. Mop up that slime goo. You look like a lion from the Slimeville Zoo. You should really be ashamed with that chubby plain face. Your hair looks like a mop. It's all over the place. And who left that muck there? Where's my green tea? Scrub the hair goo from my sink immediately. Slimerella would work from morning till night. No matter what she did, she never got it right. Her days were full of cleaning sprees while Mom, Stress and Heat posted hairstyles on IG.
So what do the actions of Mom, Stress and Heat tell us about them as people? Think about that. What do the actions of Mom, Stress and Heat, just their actions, tell us about them as people?
But on this night in question, an IG Live did play. It was that handsome Prince Kareem. Here's what he had to say.
To all the ladies of Slimeville, and yes, I mean all, I will be holding an epic hair ball. I'm looking for hair love, if you know what I mean. I need a sweet lady to become my slime queen. So report to my palace no later than 5. You better dress to impress. I just may go live.
The slime ladies in the salon were excited and thrilled at the thought of becoming the hair queen of Slimeville. That awful Stress and Heat both looked at each other and at the same time asked, "Will you do our hair, Mother?" Slimerella was listening. She wanted to go too. She wanted to see the prince and behold his royal goo.
Just based on the mom's facial expressions right now, do we think the mom will let Slimerella go? What do you think?
"Can I go too, Mom?" asked Slimerella real shy. "I'd love to meet the prince, or at least say hi. It's been 10 whole years since I've had my hair done, and we could all go together. Wouldn't that be fun?" Mom looked at Stress and Heat. "I'll help you two with your styles. But Slimerella, it's a no. You won't embarrass me, lion child." They started laughing at Rella as they pointed to her hair. She really didn't know how much more she could bear. And when everyone left, Slimerella did sigh. She picked up a comb and then she started to cry. "This just isn't fair. They're all so unkind. With a little comb and brush, my hair would be fine." Whether by magic or wishes, or dreams in the sky, perhaps hallucinations of beauty supplies, Rella wasn't sure what and she wasn't sure how, but a glittery slime fairy just appeared somehow.
Now, immediately, when you saw the fairy godmother, in this case, the fairy goo mother, what other stories did you think of? Let me know.
"I am Goo Glitter. My glitter hair is my crown. It feels and smells like cotton candy, like no other hair around. It sparkles in the morning and it glows in the night. It attracts nature's beauty like butterflies and sunlight. Your stepmom and sister simply haven't been fair. You're going to the ball because you belong there. Your hair is so healthy, so shiny, it's true. It's full of thick magic, the very essence of you. Your hair is your glory. It's perfect. You'll see. With a tiny bit of magic, you'll be our slime queen." The fairy did something odd. She cut a piece of Rella's hair, then took a magical cloth and wiped tears off the chair. "I'll save this for later," the fairy goo mother said. "Your tears and hair are important for what lies ahead."
I wonder what the fairy goo mother is going to do with that magical cloth and that piece of Rella's lock. Lock is another word for saying hair, like a strand of hair.
Slimerella was shocked, stunned, and surprised. Who was this lady with glitter in her eyes? "I'm here just to make all your hair dreams come true. Now answer me this. Do you want me to help you?" "Of course, course, said Slimerella. Just tell me what to do. I'll do anything for my prince. Please help me, Fairy Goo. Very well, said the fairy. I'll be here tomorrow night, and we'll get you to that ball, and you'll look a delight. The very next day, as Slimerella waxed the tile, Stress and Heat began creating the perfect slime hairstyle. They wanted a slime updo that would really stand out. Then Prince Kareem would choose them beyond a shadow of a doubt. With their hair pinned up and baby hair slicked in place, Stress and Heat were now ready to put a smile on Kareem's face. Slimerella was watching as she continued to wax and mop. And when the clock struck 4, Stress and Heat left the shop. And true to her word, like magic, like air, Fairy Goo reappeared and started parting Slime's hair.
What do you all notice about the shape of the Fairy Goo Mother's wand? What continent is that? You all know? Africa. Yes, Africa.
Wait, Fairy Goo. Just wait, hold on. My hair is a mess. This will take way too long. Slimerella, please trust me, said the glittery Fairy Goo. Let me use all my magic and watch what I do. She took the tear-soaked cloth and that piece of Slime's lock, took a spray can and sprayed it, and put 3 seconds on the clock. And like magic, Rella's hair had a beautiful glittery glow. She was almost ready to go steal the show. Her dress was amazing. It sparkled and gleamed. It matched her hair perfectly. She was ready for Kareem. And then from the sky, 2 hairpins came aglow. The most beautiful glass pins, patterned after rainbows.
Those pins, what story in the original version of Cinderella? She didn't have pins. What did she have? Glass slippers, remember? But in Slimerella, we have glass hairpins. And look at all of those words on her dress. The Fairy Goo Mother was trying to tell her, this is all inside of you. These are words that you possess. You possess resilience, empathy, integrity, and confidence. You already had that inside of you. And we're going to talk more about those vocabulary words class later. Let's continue.
Fairy Goo placed both hairpins in the side of Slime's hair. Fairy Goo said, don't lose these. They're magical. They're rare. Now let me see. I don't want to rush, but watch what I do with this spiky hairbrush. She zip-zapped the brush, and it zipped and it tugged in 3 seconds flat. It was a convertible Volkswagen Bug. With your hair and your dress and your car oh so bright, go show off your hair, but be gone by midnight. Slimerella took her car with very little hassle, made her way like a star to Kareem's royal castle. In no time at all, the prince started to stare at Slimerella in her dress and all that beautiful slime hair.
May I have this dance?
Said the Prince of Slime. Of course, Your Highness, but only for a short time. They danced and they danced. Prince Kareem was entranced. None of the other slime girls even stood a chance. And just as he was about to touch her magical locks, the clock struck midnight. Oh no! It was 12 o'clock. So she turned and ran quickly down the Platinum Palace stairs and never even noticed the pin that fell from her hair. Slimerella didn't realize she was starting to look whack. Her slime locks were quickly fading and her clothes were changing back.
So what do we think is going to happen? Based on what we already know about a similar story, she dropped her hairpin. What's going to happen? Do we know? You going to predict? All right, let's see.
Prince Kareem found the pin and a lock of Rella's hair. It was late in the night, but he didn't care. He was determined and focused and in love, you see.
I'll find her tomorrow. I'll post a photo on IG.
The prince stayed true to his word. He was serious, no grins, in his post on IG holding that magical hairpin.
My party was lovely, the best one in the world. I found my true queen. She had glorious slime curls, but she ran off too quickly in the middle of the night, and now it's my mission to make things right. Whoever has the twin to this beautiful pin will become my slime queen, and my heart she will win.
The very next day, Prince Kareem and his friends set out to find the girl who wore the rainbow-colored pin. Natural hair, permed hair, colored hair too, puffy hair, flat hair, and knots of bantu. Ladies came from all over and brought next of kin, but they couldn't find the match to the beautiful hairpin. The prince went all over. He searched and he roamed until one day he arrived at Slimerella's home. Now, Stress showed off her hairpins. They were too old and rusty. Heat showed off hers too, but hers smelled kind of musty.
Is musty a good smell, you think? If you didn't know that word, would you think that was something good based on the picture? No, probably not.
Slimerella walked in. I have a hairpin, but it's bent. Don't be silly, slime girl. Go back down to the basement. But Slimerella was determined. She knew what was fair. She pulled that magical pin from the depths of her hair. Her sisters were shocked. They felt really small because they had no idea she was even at the hairball.
It was you, my slime queen.
Kareem displayed a huge grin, and then he reached in his jacket and gave Rella the hairpin. The prince picked up his phone, told Rella to say cheese, and wrote,
I found her,
in a post on IG. Then all of a sudden, the redolence of her hair hypnotized our slime prince because the scent was so rare. Her hair smelled like peaches and lavender root, aloe vera and pink sugar and coconuts too.
The term rare, when something is so rare, what does that mean, rare? Write that word down. When something is so rare. I'm going to ask you about that later.
Kareem touched Rella's hair. It had a cashmere feel. How fitting for the girl who'd be the hair queen of Slimeville. The prince kissed Rella's wrist with respect, love, and laughter, and took her to be his queen in their happily ever after. The end.
I certainly hope you all enjoyed that story. I really do. Let me go back and share my screen. Because what we're going to do now is think about what we just read. And we're going to do an activity called 3, 2, 1. And you will write 3 words that describe how you felt after reading or hearing this story. 2 things that surprised you in the story. And 1 question that you have for me, the author. So I'm going to give you a minute to copy that down, because this is what I want you to bring the next time I see you all. And we're going to have discussions around the 3, 2, 1 activity, because this is the after reading part that I talked about earlier that deals with reflection to ensure that students understand what they've just read or heard. So give you a minute to write that down or take a picture. But that is kind of your homework assignment. Your task as a volunteer is to motivate our children and encourage them. And you would be amazed at the many ways you do that naturally when you're working with children. One of the things we want to make sure that children are reading every night for 20 to 30 minutes. And instilling the love of reading inside of them, hopefully will get them there. Okay. Here's the work that I quoted in my presentation. And here's my contact information. If you want to reach out for questions, or if you want to email me your 321s, you can. But this is my contact information.